applause to Tim. It sounds weird when someone talks about you and you're right there, and then it's kind of like praising. It's like an awkward feeling. But I want to talk about perception to start us off today. Perception is an interesting thing. Imagine a guy shows up to an event, and he shows up in a nice car. Your perception is, well, he's clearly trying to make up for something. Okay, now imagine that same guy shows up to the same party, but he's wearing a nice suit. Perception is, this man has a sense of style. Now imagine that same guy shows up to the same party with a beautiful woman on his arms. You say, oh, he must be a ladies' man. Well, now imagine a guy who's legally blind shows up to a party in a nice car, a nice suit, and a beautiful woman. You say to yourself, well, he must have money. Today I showed up in my buddy's pickup truck, and he's in the back there. He's not a beautiful woman, so thank you, Dustin. I appreciate it. But the perception, reason I want to bring up perception is perception of me with this cane. I've been legally blind since the age of 7, and for the last 14 months I've had this cane. And the toughest thing I have with it is not the fact that my vision is getting worse, it's the perception that people have of me when they see a cane. Because I felt the same way, even though I was legally blind for over 20 years. When I saw someone with a cane, my perception was what they lacked, what they struggled with, like what they couldn't see. I was so focused on the cane that I wasn't focused on the person. So the perception that people have of me when I use this is one thing that I truly struggle with on a day-to-day basis. So if you don't mind, I'd like to kick the cane off to the side, lose that perception, and spend some time with you guys here for the next little bit. I'm going to tell you guys about my life. I'm going to talk to you guys about community, which you guys all know very much about. Give yourself a round of applause for being a big part of the community and helping raise our community here in Illinois. And speaking of perception, say I if you've ever met someone after high school who you went to school with, but your perception of them in high school and who they are today was completely different. Exactly. That's the one thing that I always struggle with, because we all have met that person in our life where we thought they were this way, and we got to know them and they're this way. But sometimes we have that stigma with us. And for me, that's my cane. That's the one thing I struggle with, because the things that I need in life and help and the support, I use my community to help me get through things. I also use my ability to get through life. I use my vision. Weird, a blind guy talking about vision. A vision for yourself and your eyesight are two totally, completely different things. There's also potential. You need to know what is your true potential in life. And lastly, I'm going to tell you guys, if you were all blind like me, the world would be a better place. And that's something to think about there for a second. But to start, I'll give you a little bit more of a background on who I am before we get into it. At the age of 7, I was diagnosed, as Tim said, with macular degeneration. I was 7 years old, didn't really know any better. I mean, it was still crazy, hopped up on soda and candy bars, running into things. I mean, you're young, you're innocent, you don't know any better. You don't see the challenges that are waiting ahead of you in life. And then, moving forward, it just was who I was. I was legally blind. I was still able to stay in school and keep up with friends. The doctors told me there was only 2 things in life I'd never be able to do: drive a car and play baseball. Well, I've driven a car 90 miles per hour, and I've tried to catch a fastball at 90 miles per hour. So I'd say I tackled those 2 pretty well. Now, I wouldn't say it was safe, and I don't think blind people playing hand-eye sports is a good thing to do. But I did it. They said I couldn't do it, and I did it. It's not the things that I'm most proud of, nor is being on a sports field, or being on the radio, or winning a comedy competition back in 2003. That's not what I'm most proud of. What I'm most proud of today, as I'm getting older, and my vision is fading. A week and a half ago, I was in the shower, and I've noticed my vision slightly get worse over the past few years, and I freak out whenever I go to the doctor. I always expect bad news, but I want to know how much. Well, I was in the shower and my left eye completely went blank. just gone. Just completely gone. So I thought to myself, well, this is it. And there goes that eye, and the right eye is already worse as it is. It's only a matter of time. So I just relaxed, sat there, let my loved ones know what was going on, turned off the lights, put a warm, cold washcloth in my head, went to bed. The next day, it was back. I don't know what happened, but I didn't freak out, and why I didn't freak out is because of my community. 10 years ago, I was living in the city of Chicago, and I lived in the city of Chicago for 5 years. I was like anyone else. You wouldn't even know I was blind. I was weaving in and out of people, just cruising down the streets, couldn't wait, like this fast-paced society. But no one knew me in the city. No one walked past me and said, "Good morning, Ryan." Or when you walked into Starbucks, they didn't know your name and your drink that you wanted. It's a big city, it's Chicago. So as I start to lose my eyesight, and I need help in life, my community is so important to me. Having people around me in my community who are willing to help me out, like my friend Dustin here today, driving me because I can't see. But not just that, it's as simple as going to the grocery store. I know what I want. I know the lemons are in this area. I know the rice is somewhere over here, but I can't see it. And now if there's a sale on some rice, someone's got to be like, "Hey, this rice is $2, this is $4. And that's the kind of help I need. And it's so important to have a community where individuals can get the help they need, not just from one another, but from everyone in the community. It's a great thing. Say "I" if you're a part of or ever done CrossFit. All right, a few. Okay. The one thing I love about CrossFit's 1.5 miles away from my house. I walk there almost every day. This is a community aspect. I know what I need to do to get in shape. I can be a member at any gym, but the energy from everyone else inside the gym at CrossFit, that's what pushes me forward. That's what's helping me lose weight. And not to mention, outside of our gym, the community we've formed. That's what's important, and that's what lays on you guys moving ahead, is to build that community, whether it's here in Des Plaines, down in Bolingbrook, over in Downers Grove, is building a good, strong community where everyone feels welcome. People who are white, black, gay, straight, transgender, blind, deaf, it doesn't matter. It's creating an environment and a community where everyone can come there and learn and grow from one another. That's very important. And it seems that you guys are doing this today very well, because this is an award ceremony, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? We've got some winners here today, and I'm looking forward to find out who won. I want to talk about ability. Ability is interesting because I've always been told I have a disability. I always hated that. And I remember the last real job I ever had, I was sitting there, and one thing that drove me crazy was communication. Let me know, say "I" if you ever had this happen. Someone is office or desk is 5 to 10 feet away from you and they shoot you an email. That happened? I was... "I." Where are we losing our communication skills today? It goes back to perception. We love to spend time online communities, because I can control my image. I don't have to be Ryan Mendenhall, who's legally blind, motivational speaker. I could be Illinois Parks and Recs 22 at Twitter. Tweet about whatever I want to tweet about. Put whatever profile picture I want up. Any sort of image or perception I can put out there. But it comes back down to the true community, not an online community, but a real community. One that talks to one another, face to face. They get up and they come personally ask you, "Hey, can you help me get this report done by 5? Or I'm having a tough time getting the boys' basketball schedule done by this Tuesday. There's a few scheduling conflicts. Can I get your help?" Not shooting an email that's so impersonal. And what does that say? I want your help with something, or I need this, but you're not worth my time to get up and walk 5 feet to ask you face to face. So that's something that I started to struggle with. Not to mention that I was doing data entry, a legally blind guy doing data entry where they're looking at the quantity of data claims you would enter in a day. Now my boss would never fire me. Never. Not just because I'm lovable, because I am. Let's not kid ourselves here. I'm lovable. But because I have a disability. And they're too afraid to sit there and fire me in a lawsuit. But I started to look around. It was forced overtime. I wasn't pulling my weight. I was doing half of the amount of work as everyone else. Working twice as hard. Strained on my eyes, looking at 3 monitors for 8 hours a day. So I finally walked into my boss's office. And I said, part of being a mature adult is realizing when a relationship isn't working out to walk away. And part of that isn't just romantic relationships, but also business relationships. They weren't going to fire me. I walked away from a paycheck every 2 weeks. But I also said, what are my abilities? What are my abilities in life? Because seeing if that's an N or an M and trying to type that into a system, that's not my ability. That's not my strength. How am I going to be successful if I'm doing something that is focused on what my disability entails? So I left that job and I started thinking to myself, what are my abilities? I love to talk. I'm up here today. I love to talk. Okay, I love to write. And at this point in time, I just found out that my eyesight was getting worse. Okay, well, now I have to change that up. So computers may not be an option in 3 or 4 years. So if computers aren't going to be an option, I need to not be sitting at a desk all day. I need to get out and interact with people, use a phone, face-to-face, go out and speak to the world, inspire people to do more, but also to focus on what your abilities are. My disability is this much. My abilities are through the roof. And that's what you have to look at in your life. You know, if you know that you're not the best speaker and you have to present something to 5 park districts in your area, maybe ask your colleague who's helping you put this event on if they'd be willing to speak, because that's one of their strengths. And maybe you'll put on the party planning committee and help them out in another way. Part of being successful is learning to know what your abilities are, what your strengths are, and utilize those, because that is ultimately going to lead you towards success. And this is key towards moving forward in whatever it is you want to do in life, whether it's with the Parks and Rec, whether it's with your relationship with a loved one, whether it's being a parent. Know what your strengths are, know what your abilities are. If you weren't a good student, but your wife was, they should be the ones helping your kids out studying, and you should be the ones teaching them chores around the house. It's all a give and a take. Know what your strengths are. Focus on your abilities. Don't focus on your weaknesses. This also helps with positive attitude and positive reinforcement in terms of getting yourself to where you want to get to one day. Which comes down to vision. Like I said, what I lack in eyesight, I make up for in vision. I started to realize, probably about 5 years ago, anything I put my mind to, I achieved. I was in junior high and I always wanted to be on the Howard Stern Show. I was on the Howard Stern Show. I love sports. I wanted to be a sports reporter. I was a sports reporter in years for Chicago. On Soldier Field, on Comiskey Field, on Wrigley Field, down in the stadium at the Bulls game, on the court, when the team is in the playoffs, interviewing players. Anything I wanted to do, I did. Same thing with doing stand-up comedy. I saw myself on stage. Let me tell you, a vision for myself was speaking to you folks here today. But it wasn't showing up with Dustin, my handsome friend. It was coming in a nice car and a beautiful woman in a nice suit. But that vision will come true one day. He will not always be my ride. Although he's a part of my community, my vision for myself is greater. I'll tell everyone my vision, because I'm not settling. I know what my abilities are. And I still want to utilize them. My vision for myself in the future is to be speaking to a stadium full of individuals and inspiring them and giving them feedback and giving them motivation to focus on their abilities, to stay within their communities, to build not a large community, but to build a community where people help one another out. I'll tell you this right now. I'd rather take a high five than 10,000 likes on Facebook. That's a community to me. Human interaction. Not sitting there looking at a piece of technology and getting no warmth, no genuine human feeling. That's what we need. So my vision is to be speaking to a stadium of 10,000 people. That is my vision. I don't let go of that. I had a vision this time last year to go see the world when I found out my vision was getting worse. My eyesight was getting worse. And what the vision started off at and where it ended up as was two totally different things, but I did go see the world. That vision didn't die just because the initial people that I was supposed to go to Europe with and see the rest of the world couldn't go. It changed. But my vision of going overseas still happened. Again, it's all about putting things in perspective too. Just because one thing falls apart doesn't mean that there's not another door opening up over here. You didn't get the promotion this year, you're upset. Don't give up that vision of being the director or part of the director in the district. Never give up that dream. Don't give up the vision. Your visions may change as you grow. But don't give up a vision just because one door closes. That's foolish. That doesn't make sense. But a big part of vision is once you have the vision, is what do you do with the vision? That's your potential. How many people in here have a vision? Say, I. That's it? Like, whether it's be a relationship, career, new car, vacation. You guys don't have more visions? So if you have a vision, say I. Aye. Okay, good. Vacation vision's always fun, by the way. Especially as Chicago winter's about to get colder. But there's one thing to have a vision and see yourself there. The difference between a person with a vision and the person who's successful is grabbing your potential. The potential is there for us to be whatever we want. Whether we want to go to Europe or go to Mexico, or we want to find Mr. Right and marry Mr. Right, or we want to live in Carroll Stream as opposed to Glendale Heights, it doesn't matter. Whatever our vision is, it then falls on the person to grab that potential, to move forward, taking ownership in their life. Now, one thing a lot of people will tell you who know me is that I'm a very positive, optimistic person. Life hasn't been the hardest on me, but it hasn't been the best. And everything that I've ever achieved in life, yes, I had that vision, and I may have gotten a little bit of luck along the way, but the difference between me being successful and achieving those goals and not was grabbing that potential. Seeing an opportunity of someone couldn't make it to a shift at the radio station, so I volunteered as an intern to go cover the Cubs game. Working those extra shifts to put myself in good standing with the boss to get that opportunity to be on the Howard Stern show. And it's not just that in life. You know, I always tell my friends the difference between me and you when it comes to dating beautiful women is I'm not afraid of rejection. I have nothing to lose, but the difference is I grab the potential. When I see someone, I ask them. If they say no, it's no big deal. But I'll never know unless I ask. And you'll never know if you could have reached your vision unless you grab your potential. So whether that's in your work life, your personal life, at home, in softball, it doesn't matter. Grab your potential. Because I ran a competitive softball team. Some of you may know me from Arlington Heights to Westchester to Itasca, Rockford, Joliet. I ran a competitive softball team for 10 years in this state. And I finally gave it up at the end of last year because it was a nice little community that I leaned on for 10 years that we talked about. Guys that I grew up with, and it was a way for me to get out there and manage and run a team. Even though I couldn't see the play, I was still a part of it because I focused on, again, my abilities. But I had to walk away because my eyes were getting worse. How many weekends could I spend in Joliet, Rockford, Westchester, playing softball? There was other things I wanted to do. But I can tell you from my years of running a team, the best players and the worst players, it wasn't that their visions were different. Trust me, there were some guys that had higher visions of themselves than anyone else. The difference was potential. Who went in and put in that extra work? Who worked on hitting the ball to the right side? Who sat there and took grounders that morning? You know, I was talking with my buddy before we came in here today, and I know what to do. I need to pick up the barbell and not the donut in order to lose weight. My vision is to be skinny, but I have to then take that initiative, grab my potential, and start doing the right things. Because at the end of the day, as much as we all want to play victim in this world, the ownership falls on us and us alone. So for me to reach that vision of speaking to 10,000 people inside a stadium, that falls on me. That falls on me becoming the best speaker that I can be. Connecting with individuals, growing my brand, grabbing my potential. Speaking to anybody and everybody who will listen, but also having a message that's going to hit home. That anyone can achieve what they want if they visualize, grab their potential, focus on their abilities, and stick to a strong community. Because those are some building blocks and foundations in life that is at the end of the day not only going to help us become more successful in life, but when times are tough, if you start to lose your vision, if a loved one gets cancer, if you get sick, having that community, having the ability to focus on your abilities, that if you start to lose use of one of your arms, that you still have use of your legs, and focus on that. That, hey, the glass might start to get half empty, but you know what? It's half full. Perception. Things are not always the way they appear. And that is what I want to try and hit home. Just because you see me with a cane doesn't mean that I'm not capable of certain things. Now, whether it's multitasking on a computer or texting friends, probably not my strong suit. But there's a lot of things that I can do, and I live a good life, and I build a good community, and I try to inspire others, not just by coaching them, but by talking to them as friends, getting that human interaction. I hate it when people text me, because I text them back, and they're like, send that again. Like, just call me. We could spend 2 minutes on the phone or 30 minutes texting. If you've ever experienced that before, say aye. Yeah. And do you guys have that person that will text you nonstop, and then you go to call them just to relieve the issue, and they send you a text back and say, sorry, I can't talk right now. We know it because it happened, and it's so aggravating. Like, you just texted me 4 times. You're not a doctor and you're not the president. Why can't you pick up? And I'm sure you guys understand too, like, technology these days has made it great for your job. Now we don't have to get called. When's Timmy's game? Is it this Saturday at 8:30? Everything's online. But at the same time too, you kind of lose connection of who are all the kids signed up for the programs? Who are all the adults signed up for the programs? Everything goes through online registration. You kind of lose that human face-to-face interaction. That's why it's very important in terms of us moving forward as a community, as a state, for you guys to force that human interaction in the programs that you provide. And not just force human interaction, but also focus on the abilities and strengths of individuals that will be coming and attending these programs. And also having a vision of when you set up a new program, of how you want it to end up. What is my vision? And then from that vision, again, grab your potential. Everything's there. You have to grab it. And finally, if you guys in the world was blind like me, the world would be a better place. I don't think a bunch of blind people running around the streets and trying to cook and everything would sound like a good idea to me. Does that sound good to you guys? I don't mean blind with your eyes. I mean blind, staying in believe in yourself, love yourself. I stands for intuition, trust yourself. N stands for now, live in the moment, and D stands for determination. No one else out there believes in themselves more than I believe in myself. Now, don't get me wrong, I think we all question ourselves at times, but I believe in myself. But most importantly, I believe in others. One thing that my disability has given me is the ability to see the good in other people. And I love that. That is a great ability to have because I believe in others want to do good. There's some horrible things in this world. Case in point, what happened in France just the other day. Sad, tragic, and horrific. But I was in Turkey this summer. I met some great people. Brandon was only there for a few hours. I was in Italy. I was in France. I was in Spain. Sweden. There's great people all around this world. They want to do good things. And I had my stick with me in foreign countries, mostly to avoid any sort of international incidents, so that people would know that I'm blind because the cane just kind of says it for me. And people were so helpful. Everyone says, oh, don't get pickpocketed, watch out, everyone's going to mug you. No, they weren't. I believe in people. People ultimately, at the end of the day, want to do the right thing. Love. Love yourself. They always say, how can you expect someone else to love you if you don't love yourself first and foremost? Now, loving yourself can mean a variety of different things. Let's not play foolish here, but if you can't sit alone with yourself in your own thoughts, dance around to some music by yourself in your own house, laugh at yourself, what's the point, you know? I trip all the time. As Cindy and Tim were showing me in here today, I almost walked right into that thing. And I just laugh it off. All you can do is laugh it off. Love yourself. Now, granted, do I wish I was in better shape? Absolutely. Whose fault is that? It's my own. But do I not love myself still? I still love myself. Whether I'm 230 pounds or 165 pounds, I will always love myself. But that's also because of my community. Because I surround myself with good people who are going to love me, appreciate me, and build me up, as I hope to do the same for them. Intuition. Intuition's a tricky thing, because I don't know if I necessarily have more intuitive sense because I'm legally blind, or if it's just something I recognize. How many people know someone, this is my favorite, how many people know someone who went to go check their boyfriend or girlfriend's phone? Say I. Every time someone has ever told me that, whether they said, oh, I knew they were cheating, so I had to go check. You needed validation. You already knew the answer. No one ever came back and said, oh, I felt so guilty, I checked their email, there was nothing there. They already knew, they just didn't want to listen to the truth. The same thing goes in the workspace. I know as soon as I finish this boys' baseball schedule, someone's going to call and enter a team in, and I'm going to have to redo the whole thing. Because the deadline's at 4 o'clock and it's 3:50 and you're trying to get out early, and then you put it through and then someone calls. Listen to your intuition. Now granted, that's a small example, but there's so many times in life where we want to listen to our intuition, but we tune it out. We're not going to let ourselves down. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts. When you're sitting there, should I have one more beef today before I go sit down and listen to someone speak for 35 minutes? Probably should. But it tastes so good. Stay in the now. This is a tricky one. Because it's so easy to just pull out our phone and look at it and live someone else's life or focus on that project that we have to get done by 5 o'clock today. And this guy on stage is talking to us about God knows what, and that's all I can focus on. Or we're sitting there thinking about the date that we had on Friday night. And if the date went well, did she like it? Was she mad? Do you think she'll go out with me again? Stay present. It is so key in this life with so much technology, so many ways to communicate, to stay focused. If you're there for a soccer game, be there for the soccer game. Don't sit there and be on your phone. Don't sit there and not spend time with someone that is taking time out of their day to meet you for coffee, and you're sitting there checking emails. This will help with sanity and clarity, and staying present, living in the now. Because you're not living in the past and you're not living in the future. It's okay to go to those places briefly when you're alone with yourself. But when you're with others, respect their time. Stay in the moment. Because more productive things will come out of that time together if you can stay present. And stay in the moment. Stay in the now. And then D obviously stands for determination. One thing in my life is I'm very determined. When I put my hand to something, I'm very, very determined. As you can see from my physical appearance here today, my determination has lacked me in the gym and with the donuts and the pizza. That determination hasn't been there yet. It's becoming more apparent now because I want to change my image. So now that focus and determination is shifting, but again, it comes down to my potential. But if we stay determined in anything and everything we want to do in life, we will get there. I always joke around, I said, one of my best assets in terms of, dating, because everyone's like, oh, you always date pretty women and blah, blah, blah. And I always say, I'm persistent. I just don't say no, because their perception of me with the king is not who I am. I have more to offer. There's more layers to me. But I have to be persistent and determined to show them that. And that is where that comes from. Is grabbing that potential, staying determined, and showing them that their perception of who I am is something completely different. So if you believe in yourself, you believe in others, you love yourself and love others, you trust yourself, you stay in the moment, and you stay determined in life, you're going to find that your environment that you've created for yourself and your community will be much better, much stronger. Moving forward, these are some simple things that you can apply to your own life. Is forget these perceptions that we have of other people. Start to focus on your community. Not make your community bigger, as social media would tell us, but make your community stronger, tighter. Focus on your abilities, whether it's in your personal life or at work. Start to focus on the things that you're good at. And the things that you're not good at, don't waste your time with it. Pay someone to do it. Hire someone to do it. Doesn't matter. Get someone else to focus on it. Visualize. If earlier when I asked, does everyone have a vision? If you didn't have a vision for anything, that's something you should start to focus on. Is your vision for who you are and who you want to become. And then once you find that vision in your life, grab your potential. Which, by the way, is the name of my website, grabyourpotential.com. So, shameless plug there. But grab that potential in anything and everything in life. It's there for you. Take it. And then lastly, again, if the world's more blind like I am, the world would be a better place. So with that, I want to thank everyone for their time today. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to hear the winners of the awards. And again, if you'd like to check me out, you can look at me at grabyourpotential.com. I'm Ryan Mendenhall on Facebook, and I'm also Grab Your Potential on Twitter. And with that, I'll head it back over to Tim. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.